Mithrandiel here with the Geekly Grind at TwitchCon 2019. I am at the Brace Yourself Games booth. Who am I joined by today?
My name is Andy Wynn. I'm the project lead on Industries of Titan.
Industries of Titan, which is exactly what we're checking out right now. Tell us a little bit about Industries of Titan. What kind of game is this? What do people have to look forward to?
Industries of Titan is an industrial simulation strategy game set on the surface of Titan, which is one of Saturn's moons. So the setting is that it's sort of like a dystopian cyberpunk future where Titan is discovered to hold the remnants of an ancient human civilization, but the people who used to live there are no longer there, and all that exists left are their sort of these ruins that cover the entire surface. And so the founders of Titan started up a sort of a new type of government, and they're called the Council, where they encourage other corporations to start their companies on Titan in order to salvage the resources to make the most profits. And you, as a player, are going to be one of these startup companies. And what it means to be a company on Titan is sort of inspired by games like SimCity and other city builders. So what you'll do is you'll kind of start off with a single building as like a headquarters, and then you'll sort of try to grow your population from there. There's ships that kind of travel to Titan and drop off different types of population, and you want to build habitats for them and grow your population and whatnot. But there's another element of Titan is that we call it like hyper-capitalism, where basically there are other rival corporations that are sort of vying for profits as well, and they have bribed the council to be able to engage in warfare with you, and so you're also tasked with being able to defend yourself against these sort of military vessels that come and attack you periodically. And that element of the game is spaceship, like aerial spaceship combat. So you kind of like build your city and your population to maintain their happiness, but also in order to protect your company and your people, you need to build an industry such that you can manufacture weapons that defend and or attack others.
That's awesome. So obviously the strategy genre is wide and vast. What are some elements of Industries of Titan that you think help it to stand out in this, among those offerings? Like, what do you think makes the gameplay unique and engaging for the player?
Well, there's a lot of, as you said, the strategy genre being so varied. We like to look at sort of the key word when we describe Titan is the simulation strategy part. So while I'm a big fan of games like Command and Conquer and StarCraft, and you can see sort of those influences in Titan. I think what's more important is our approach to strategy this time around, being a simulation. It means that the actors themselves, like the agents that sort of issue commands, we try to treat them as if they are true beings that are living in that world. And so, for example, in a sort of a more arcadey real-time strategy game, you might issue a build order, and that building might just start constructing itself, or they might wait for one worker to get there and then it'll start building. In sort of being inspired by games like Dwarf Fortress, what it means for Titan is that if you need to build something, your people you need to have your workers gather those physical resources which are tracked, and then take them to the designated location. And once it's accumulated the appropriate amount of resources, they then construct it themselves. But then the agents themselves also have various needs in order to survive. So, for example, when you start going into combat, it's not just their hit points that you're sort of tracking. You also need to make sure that they have oxygen, so you have to build life supports for them as well. And then the ship's systems are also have various systems that are interconnected. So, for example, if your goal is to fire a weapon, you would need to make sure that the weapon had a person that is able to operate it. That person would also be able to have oxygen to operate it, like I've said earlier. But the weapon itself requires power, so you need to make a generator that can then pipe the power to the weapon, and then the generator itself creates power by converting fuel. So you have to have these various interconnected parts functioning in order for this to work, and that's the difference.
Kind of like adds it sounds like more depth to that strategy feel, instead of just, I want to build a barracks, I'm going to send a single worker to miraculously erect a massive barracks.
Correct, yeah.
You have to make sure everything's there.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you were mentioning earlier, so how long has the game been in development, and right now what would you say is the timeline? When do you expect maybe a next major update, maybe a beta or something for people to be able to sink their teeth into and play?
So we've been in development in full production for about 2 years now. about a year and a half to 2 years now. We've been about production, and our goal has always been to release in early access. What that means for us is we want to make sure we have the game polished and ready, but yet as soon as possible. Yet and at the same time, we need to make sure that the game, when we do release in early access, has enough of the content that represents our long-term vision of the game. So our target has always been to release early access sometime by the end of this year. We're still developing systems and features to make the game better, and so it all depends on how things go. But for now, we're telling people that our goal has always been at the end of this year. And that may change depending on how the milestones work out. Yeah.
And then, so after TwitchCon, are you guys going to be at any other conventions through the end of this year, or are you guys wrapping up really focusing on getting it ready for early access?
So we do travel quite a bit, and a big part of that is seeing different types of players play the game. It really helps and inspires us as developers to kind of like to know what to prioritize, or what, the parts of the game that are like most confusing.
I'm just curious. That makes me think. Like, what have you discovered in doing this? Like, has there been a revelation at one of the conventions where just like one of those nuggets? I'd be interested to know what that was.
I would say, so 1 month ago we demoed at PAX, and then today we're demoing at TwitchCon. Both are trade shows for gamers, and yet the players themselves are wildly different. The types of features or the parts that sort of intrigue the gamers here are different than in PAX. For example, at PAX we found that a lot of players were the kind of people who they wanted to put on their headphones and they wanted to just be left alone and figure it out. And if they made a mistake, that was fine. They kind of just work through it, or they would try again. They would treat it very much as if they were like playing a game single player on their own. TwitchCon, the playing is a lot more of a social experience, and this makes a lot of sense given how the nature of Twitch. So they're talking to you while they're playing. They're telling you what they think. When they get stuck, they're asking questions, and they want to know more. The game is just to them a vehicle for what they really want, is just a social aspect of it, and that's such a different vibe than before. Where I'm like, here's the game, enjoy. It's like they go on a roller coaster and they're fine. That was this PAX, So that kind of stuff is critical. And to answer one of your earlier questions, what shows are we planning on going to? We're planning on, I think in November, going to Korea to show off at G-Star, which is the biggest gaming convention, as far as I understand, from what I understand, in Korea, and showing the game off there to see how they like it. And that's
going to be an interesting learn in Korea for sure.
Absolutely, right? Because while we did not design the game to be like StarCraft, we've had a couple people say they felt like it was similar because of maybe the vibe of it or the sounds of it or whatnot. And I'm just really curious to see how Koreans will like it, because they're being big on StarCraft over there.
Awesome. All right. Well, we're gonna dive into this a little bit. Definitely gonna share some of my initial thoughts. But thank you so much for taking the time to tell us a little bit more about Industries of Titan. We're looking forward to the early access, and hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
Thank you so much.